Now, when you go in wounded...
Welcome back. Here we are in the studio. Sister Elise has put the song on that says, without a woman's touch, and you're right, you know. This has come all the way from the beginning. So don't you listeners, viewers, take it for a moment that I'm thinking that it's one without the other. Right from the beginning, God looked around and said, you know what? It is not good for man to be alone. And every man knows this. Everyone knows this.
I was wondering, I was beginning to want.
No. The only people, let me tell you this, the only people in the world that believe contrary to that are women who will say, I don't need no man. No, every man knows that he needs a woman in his life. Every man knows that that's how God designed it. And so what we're trying to do is to move away from this concept of the battle of the sexes and get into the place where we can start building each other. Amen? Amen? Amen. So let's get into it. So why is this lady, and this is a lady, by the way, saying, hey, guess what? There's a little bit of a problem in the world, and there are some things that are affecting this problem. So
expect the person to provide you medication, but you don't even tell them what disease you have. We are then going to punish them for everything they do.
Oh my gosh, that's the worst feeling.
Unfortunately, you go in expecting them to be the healer or the doctor to a wound that you didn't create, but you don't even tell them your diagnosis. And as a result, it's destined for failure.
I think you got it.
Right away.
The school of
It's setting up something. It's setting up that, hey, something is happening here. We're not communicating, but we expect something to happen. Oh, how does that work?
I don't know. I think we're expecting a miracle, or maybe we really don't want it to work.
You know what? Sometimes we can self-sabotage, you know. Because here's the thing. Have you ever... You're a woman, so you've probably never had a girlfriend who said to you, hey, you're supposed to know what's going on, you know. Because I know you'd never do that to your husband, right?
Never.
Talk the truth. Let's start the things for real. Have you ever done that?
No.
You've never expected your husband to know what's on your mind? Right? Or better yet, you get vexed with him. Listen, I've had this experience where gentlemen, or ladies, you can admit it if it's ever happened to you, but you know, you were asleep, and in a dream, you dreamt that your husband or boyfriend or person was cheating on you, and you woke up and you were mad at him.
Naturally.
Why naturally?
Naturally.
But that's you and your dream, right? But you know what? Let's explore. Let's
have a dream to walk straight.
Dream and walk straight. All right, you know what? Let's see what this world-renowned psychologist is going to be saying to us tonight.
Please welcome Lewis Howes.
Welcome back, everyone, to the School of Greatness. Very excited about our guest. We have the inspiring Saadia Khan in the house, who is an incredible online coach, therapist, psychologist, and someone who's really been taking off lately online with your relationship expertise, with your content, and I'm so excited that you're here, so thank you for being here all the way from Dubai.
Yes, so specifically for this, so thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We're excited. I saw a stat online recently that said 75% of relationships fail right after the first year.
Right.
What do you think about that statistic? What do you think about that statistic, Ellie? 75% of relationships fail within their first year.
I start to question who came up with this idea. That honestly, you know, I mean, what relation? I mean, but remember, you perhaps didn't go in there for the long term in the first place. It was just, you know, getting to know the individual. No commitment yet.
Fair. Okay, fine. Persons meet, they like each other, they hit it off, but they maybe not, at that point they weren't looking for a long-term relationship, or they weren't looking to go the distance. So in that sense, they didn't fail as much as they just kind of did something else, right?
Yes.
But we are aware of so many persons who do get into relationships and they want to go the distance, and then we have a heartbreak, we have these long tears, we have these situations, right? You must have known at least a couple of people, or maybe that happened to you.
Yeah, but it's
because I mean, if you didn't want to go the distance, then why are you in pain? Why are you in pain at this loss? And so there's something happening to us emotionally that is causing this challenge. That means, hey, what we were looking for, hoping for, didn't happen, and so now we're in Heartbreak Hotel or singing those songs of sadness from long ago. All right? So let's continue and see what the psychotherapist is telling us.
I don't know if that's an accurate stat, but it just seems like people are struggling in relationships, in a new relationship. They're struggling finding a great partner when they start dating.
Yeah.
They're struggling trying to figure out, is this the right partner for me? They're struggling to figure out their own wounds and how their traumas interact with someone else's traumas, and is there a good match? All these different things cause people to struggle in relationships and break up within the first year, it seems like. Why do you think people are struggling more than ever today to have a healthy, happy relationship?
And before she even answers that question, why do you think people are struggling today to have a healthy and happy relationship?
I think the mindset is not to go in for the long term. So if it doesn't work, if it hurts my head, I am not committing to torture.
And I love the coloring words that you use. If it hurts my head, I'm not committing to torture. But here's the thing. And I'm oftentimes, bewildered by the idea that we understand this process in every other aspect of our lives.
Right.
But for some reason, there's some things that are true for life, but their truth seems to disappear in relationships. It's like, for instance, gravity. We understand and believe gravity all around the world, but then in relationships, there is no gravity, right? So here, we're saying, if it hurts my head, I'm not about it, right? If it's too painful, I'm not about it. But
so can I ask you,
yes.
Will you endure pain willingly? Will you just decide that I just love this torture, I'm just going to continue this all the days of my life?
But that's how the gym works, actually. That's how we have muscles. If you want to just have no pain, sure, you can sit down on your couch and eat Cheetos and just be whatever you want to become. But if you want to maintain a decent physique and maintain some amount of attractiveness, right, you have to get into the gym. On Sunday, you're telling me that you're enjoying Pilates because you believe that you need to take care of the temple. So in the same way as we take care of the temple, if you believe that your relationship is worthwhile, then it requires a little bit of energy to take care of it and a little bit of investment to make sure that, one, you're protecting it. Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. So there's a yes here in the room. Let's hear what the psychotherapist says.
I would say it's the illusion of options that we've got today that we've never had before in the form of online dating, social media, and pornography. What that means is when we enter relationships, we're almost assessing if that partner is worthy of us. And there's almost an element of narcissism when we walk in. We're like, can I get better? Can I get the most I can get? Is this the most satisfying sexual relationship I've ever had? And if that person doesn't tick every single box off, instead of reflecting on what you need to heal and what you need to bring to the table and how you can help this relationship survive, we simply replace them with the illusion of options. Even if we don't have alternatives, we think we do, so we let go far quicker than we previously would have.
So it seems she agrees with you in that we are letting go quicker than we used.
Options. I never thought pornography was an option.
And that's an interesting one, because when you think about it, when you think about things, right? Once upon a time, we used to have to go out into the field in order to hunt deer or hunt game or hunt whatever it is that you needed to hunt in order for us to eat. If you didn't do that, you couldn't eat. And so historically, we knew that we were leaner, we were stronger, we were faster, because that's how you eat. But then we moved into a world where, okay, fine, you didn't have to go hunting, but then you could go to the supermarket and buy the things and then bring them home to cook them. Yes?
Right.
So we put on a little bit more weight because we lived a more sedentary life.
Yes.
But we still maintain some amount of leanness, even up until the 1960s and beyond. But now we're here in the year 2000, the 21st century, where you can just press a button, jump on the computer, order Uber Eats or Let's Eat if you're here in the Cayman Islands, and someone will literally bring food to your door. What that has caused is it's caused us to be, what? to be even.
Obese.
It's increased the obesity. We don't have to cook any food anymore. You can roll up to a window and there it is. You can eat, gobble, and we can all now live like kings, irrespective of what your salary. Because guess what? You can go down and buy something from the dollar meal. So here's the thing. As a man, when it comes to pornography, if you don't have to know bathe, put on some clothes and go out there and chat up a girl and get to know her in order to gain sexual access, you can just press a button on your computer and all that is in your visual experience, then it lowers the bar for what you need to do as a man. Right? Same thing happens for a woman. Once upon a time, she'd have to do the same thing. Get outside, go meet some people in order to get attention, right? Because male's currency, sexual access, female currency, attention. So now she can just be in her bedroom, take up her phone, selfie herself in a bra or some negligee or something, and get all the likes from social media. Because all these persons from not just the community anymore, not just the neighborhood, but around the world, are giving you all that affirmation. Yeah, you hot. So now guess what that says? That says we don't need each other as much, because you can get your experience, your dopamine fix from the computer. The man from the pornography and the woman from the Instagram and on all those likes, right? And so it tells us, because as a man, you're looking at these hot girls on porn or whatever, and you're thinking they're yours because you can do whatever it is and with them, right? And same thing, you're getting the attention as a woman on social media, and so you feel like all these persons are, but many of these persons are not interested in you, the individual. Just like for a man, you're not interested in that woman as an individual. And that's challenging our relationships, and that's what we're really talking about.
I think we are instant people, and we are in there for the short term until we realize that the value changes, and then after a while it's not, because things don't remain the same way, and then the market changes, and then you have younger persons coming on the market, and suddenly you can't get the amount of likes. And that's the time now that you'll be ready and willing to settle.
Which poses that challenge, because then you're saying, let's take a woman in her hot years, between the age of 18, she matures, finishes school, goes off, and 21. That means you can't talk to her about settling down. Most women are now, they're saying the average year age for marriage now is like 29, 28, 29, right? Which means you then only have a very small window between getting married and having a child.
Yeah.
If you're doing it in the biblical way, getting married and then have a child. Some persons circumvent the wheel circumvent that process by having a child out of wedlock, and because they can do that all by themselves and whatnot. But the process, if you're waiting that long to get married, for that child to have the best experience with those two couples, is shortened. Which means once upon a time a man used to marry a woman and they have, I have 6 brothers. Right? So you have a big family, but then with that short window, we realize that families are getting smaller and smaller. I think the average is 1.5 children per family now, as opposed to 6 and 5 of yesteryear. But we don't want to, I really want to explore this, because I want persons to hear what this lady is saying as she's sharing what she's been experiencing, not just as a woman, but also as a psychotherapist.
Really? What do you think we should be asking ourselves about the person we want to date? Because it sounds like we want to have every box ticked. Like, they have to be perfect, and they have to be funny, and they have to be rich, and they have to be good looking, and they need a good education. But what should we really be asking ourselves before we start dating someone?
How are my personal insecurities going to ruin this relationship?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's the first and foremost conversation to have with yourself.
How are my insecurities going to ruin this relationship?
How are my personal insecurities going to ruin this relationship?
Why is that the question we should ask ourselves?
Because we go into a relationship almost blind to our own wounds, and they resurface in the relationship, and we blame them for not providing the medication of a wound that existed before we met them.
That is very interesting. And I see your face. I'm looking at your face in the studio, Sister Ellie, and you're saying...
I'm trying to unpack it in my mind.
So here it is, usually in a relationship, and right now this may not be gender biased. In our relationship, or many relationships, there's a tendency to go, it's that person's fault.
Which usually is.
And that's the point, right? We say it's the other person, but in truth and in fact, it is both of us.
Okay.
Because I have challenges, and you have challenges. And sometimes our challenges together are not being met. But if we're holding one as the standard, then we're saying you're perfect, and we need to match you. Right? So what you're saying is, if the challenge is them, then you're perfect.
Not really.
And that's the thing, we know these things cognitively, we know these things in our heads, but sometimes when the shades of relationship pop up, we seem to forget them. So let's continue.
So true. Wow.
Yeah, so what I mean by that is, say for example you grew up financially insecure and you meet a partner who's actually really nice to you, but he might not be able to soothe all your financial insecurities. You immediately think he's not good enough. Or you go into a relationship being addicted to pornography, and then you meet a woman who's actually just at your right level, but you're so used to a hypersexualized, promiscuous woman that you find her boring. Or you go into a relationship not being able to communicate, and then you meet somebody else who's not also communicating, and you don't voice your concerns. So I would say, ask yourself, how are your insecurities going to ruin this relationship? And how do I create a buffer so that doesn't occur?
So hot take for tonight. Before you get into a relationship, or even if you're in a relationship right now, ask yourself, how am I sabotaging the relationship? Or how are my insecurities or challenges posing a challenge for the relationship? Because we all have room to grow. What do you think? You think we're perfect? We're so there's some women who believe that, hey, God created man as a first draft, and then he made perfection when he made women.
Well, I think I wish I had the statistics for that, because I believe only few women really would think like that we are perfect. But we hardly take a look, we hardly pause, we concentrate on other things. We are not as deliberate about relationships as to say, I have a fault. I think that's one of the things that we do. We don't take it, we go to school, we want to get a degree, and we are deliberate about these things, but as it relates to relationship, we hardly pause to find that time to just look introspectively and say, this could be an issue. Let's see if I could
work on something, right?
Yeah.
But there it is, right? We don't do that. So we know already that that's or we should know in our minds that that's a challenge. Because if I wanted to be a doctor, I couldn't just wake up and go, you know what, I'm just going to go down to the HSA and they're going to stick me in the surgery and I'll figure it out as I go along. It's not going to work. Or I just go down to the pharmacy. I'm a pharmacist today. Let me just see if I can mix up some of these chemicals. I'm a pharmacist. That won't work. But here it is in our relationships who say, let's just throw it together and see what happens. And then the tendency is to, again, in keeping with the narrative of the world, it's the man's fault. And I say this against the backdrop of, I've come across so many women who've shared with me that they don't like female bosses, they don't like female co-workers, or they don't enjoy female friendships because women are so hard to get along with. Yet
we have our challenges. I agree, we do have our challenges.
Yet every single relationship breakdown is the man's fault. The numbers just don't match up. But you know what? I appreciate our good Dr. Khan, who's able to share with us some insight tonight. Let's continue.
Do you know if she's married, happily married with...
Let's explore and see what happens, right? Let's see what we develop. Let's see what we're understanding. And I'm watching this for the first time too as well. I mean, I've watched a few clips of it, so I'm experiencing it with you as you share. So she's not, and if you notice, she's sharing things about women and men. So she's not necessarily poking at one gender as the problem.
Yes.
So she's in an effort to be fair and balanced, which is what I got from you. You want to have that balance, but we do also need to understand that there are two sides in this equation.
When we're aware, because a lot of us we go into a relationship not thinking where we have insecurities or that we're broken.
Yeah.
We're just like, well, the previous relationship didn't work because of them.
Yeah.
It was their fault, they did this, but really it's always comes back to us. We chose something, we didn't see something early on, we let something slide, we didn't create a boundary, we abandoned ourselves, we didn't communicate consciously, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We let things slide too often, but we don't take a look unless, for me, there's enough pain to say, okay, here's all the stuff I don't like about me.
Yeah.
Here's all my insecurities, all my baggage, all my trauma, all my challenges. The reason why I keep causing pain in relationship. Why it doesn't keep working is because of me.
Yeah.
Whoever the person is, right?
Yeah. You're the common denominator.
You're the common denominator.
Yeah.
So once we take inventory of our personal insecurities, how can we then create a buffer going into a relationship so we don't self-sabotage?
We make sure that we are trying to heal those wounds without expecting that person to break their back to help us heal. You know what I mean?
And I want to try to unpack that. She's going to unpack it somewhere, but I want to put it into some context for us. We do understand that persons have gone through different trauma. And one of the challenges in relationships for men particularly, and this is, I speak as a man because, you know what, I am. So that's what I get to do. I don't get to choose this day. No, this is where I am, right? And so part of the challenge is that we talked about triggering earlier on. Part of the challenge is that if a woman has been through some trauma and now that trauma is unhealed, she may see reflections of it that are not real, but reflections of it, and then in her mind she's triggered by the man, right? And so many times I find that men have to bend themselves or contort themselves in order to not cause that trigger to happen, as opposed to working on healing the trauma itself. What's your experience?
I question men contorting themselves. I don't know. Men really, they're not that sensitive to even pick up that women are having traumatic issues.
Wow, shade out the gate, Sister Ellie, shade out the gate. I mean,
I'm like contorting themselves. Wow.
Wait, hold on. Let's take a pause there. Is it far-fetched to believe that here's something. Here, you know what? This is a great place to pause. It's a stretch?
A stretch.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think women know what men want?
Yes.
Okay. What does a man want?
Sex.
Men enjoy sex, but that's not what men want actually. The top of the list for men is respect. I'll tell you this. Sex for many men is an indication of respect, because most women don't appreciate or understand this, because guess what, right? A man can sleep with any woman out on the street, right? She's open, she's available, he'll have sex with her. Women, for the most part, will not sleep with persons they don't respect. They can love you and not sleep with you, but they can't sleep with you if they don't respect you. And so that's why sometimes you'll see these conversations with a woman has this really loyal, awesome husband at home, but she's cheating on him with some bad man, right? Because she has respect for that bad man. So it's not about sex, because she has sex at home, but she's not doing it, right? And so here, that gives part and parcel to the confusion. And so many women, like yourself, like you just said, think that that's the only thing on the list.
One of our VIP members agrees that sex is what men want. And she has it in capital. She said S-E.
And that's what we're here, that's how we're here to educate persons tonight, right? So here's the thing. You think it's sex because... And so that's why in many relationships you get to the lockshop situation, because women think that they're training men through access to sex, but they're missing the core point of what we're talking about. It's respect. And what does that look like? Right? Most women end the list at sex because they don't really know what men want. However, on the other side, men have had to, coming back to the word of contort, men have had to figure out what women want and deliver that. And so that's even why you have men who can counterfeit it, because they figured out what women want, and so they can deliver it for the short term because they have a keen understanding of it. Let me explain. I guess the WhatsApp is blowing up. Many persons want to jump on it. Let me explain, right? So a man will check the list of things that a woman wants, because women, by and large, don't show up, knock on a man's door and say, hey dude, I want to hang out with you. No, that doesn't happen. A man has to get himself together and present himself to a woman, and then she can go, okay, sure, come on, I'll give you my number, I can do these things, right? But here's the thing, she doesn't do that for just any random man. And that's what many women discount, that part. The part that he had, all the things that he had to do in order to be attractive for her to give him her number. So if he shows up to you in some dirty clothes, you know, and face all messed up and whatnot, and says, hey baby girl, can I have your number? It's like, take with yourself, yes or no?
Why you make it seem like a burden? You have to do all these things.
I'm saying them because if we don't look at them, then they seem like we're doing nothing. Women many times just believe that men show up and want sex. No, a man has to present himself in a package that is appealing to the woman in order to even before have a sex conversation. Because she's not having a sex conversation with the homeless guy down the street. She's not having a conversation with what Beyonce says. She don't want no scrub. She's not having a conversation with those guys. And so many women don't even realize that most men are invisible. Most men are invisible because if they don't present themselves as attractive, then they're not even thinking about them, let alone having the conversation. Right? And so men have had to understand. So the men who are successful with women have had to learn and understand what women want. Some of them can deliver on that honestly, and so they're able to garner relationships. Other men, because they've found the template, they can go out, put on a nice show, they put on a nice clothes, put on the Bentley, and get one night stands and have sex with women and leave them in the morning, because they found what women are attracted to. So in the same way, that means they've invested time, energy, and effort into learning those things. If a woman just says all a man wants is sex, and invests no energy into actually learning, in actually understanding, how is she bringing her part to the relationship? What part is she bringing to the relationship? Or is she just bringing an available vagina?
The beauty.
Because, no, you can't say, if a man wants sex, he can't bring beauty.
The love and beauty.
But you've said that a man wants, all the man wants is sex. So what is the love and beauty for her? See, and therein lies the confusion. If every woman is going, all men want is sex, okay, then you're not giving him the sex. Then what is the value of that relationship? That's one. But you're doing all these other things that you're saying men don't want, but you're doing it anyway. Why are you doing it then? To whose benefit is it? Because again, let's go back to the song that you played. We need each other.
Yes.
We need each other.
Woman's touch.
So if we need each other, then we should be working together to fulfill each other, to strengthen each other, to lift up each other. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so let's tell your friend. So if you have decided that all a man wants is sex, then by all means give it to him. But let's move forward.
By that is, if I know I have an issue with jealousy, I'm trying to work on it, but at the same time, the person doesn't have to break their back to make sure I feel soothed okay. I pick consciously, I pick really well because I know that's a wound of mine, but I also learn to embrace and trust the process. Now, when you go in wounded and expect the person to provide you medication, but you don't even tell them what disease you have, we are then going to punish them for everything they do.
Oh my gosh, that's the worst feeling.
Honestly, and I've done it many times.
You've done it in relationships.
Yeah, of course.
I've had that experience to myself in relationships. It's
so
not fun.
Unfortunately, you go in expecting them to be the healer or the doctor to a wound that you didn't create, but you don't even tell them your diagnosis. And as a result, it's destined for failure.
It's destined for failure as a result if you don't work through it. I have a quick question here. Good night. Who usually quicker to end the relationship or marriage, women or men? And to answer this question, the answer is overwhelmingly women. Again, the statistic goes 80% of marriages are ended by women. 90% if you account for the higher degrees of masters and PhDs, or her earning more than 40% of what the man earns. So if she earns more, the relationship is more likely to end. We're looking at 90% divorce rate, right? And so this
who did these statistics? Were they done by men? Did they decide that, okay, we are not guilty, the women are? Is it the blame game? That's my question.
Great question. I'd like you to know, in the tertiary education environment, there are far more women than men. So there are a lot more women researchers engaged in these things than actual men, right? So there are a lot more women out there with PhDs than men with PhDs and all of these things, because the education system is, by and large, you find more women. Like in my class, I just did a class this evening, and there are 9 students, and out of those 9 students, 2 of them were male. 2 of them. And we just had a man join this week. But last week it was just 1 male to 8 students, 1 male to 7 female, right? And this is happening throughout tertiary education. More women are going off to getting higher education degrees and these many things. And it is posing a challenge, because as these challenges are presenting themselves, if women are earning higher, if women are earning more, getting more degrees, then there may be, then the question is being asked of many of these qualifications for these jobs, if they require degrees. It looks like our good producer is inviting us to turn down the speakers. I do hear a little bit of a feedback going on, so if you can bring down the speakers a little bit. Listeners, thank you for your engagement, thank you for your questions, because this is really not just about me and Sister Elise hanging out in the studio and just having a conversation. It's about being able to bring you information so we can make better decisions, because we understand not just what is happening in our feelings, but what is happening out there on the ground. Because many statistics are important. Sampling is important. When we get to see the big picture, you realize that you're not just the one making your decision on this. If you're making a decision as a group, there's something else happening. And we can stop, take a moment and go, what is pushing us as a group to consistently make the same decision? It can't be that all men are horrible, and so all relationships are being ended by men, right? Because the men are horrible. Something else must be at play. And this question is especially important for us in church, because we many times haven't made the connection yet between the larger landscape, the larger message that is being poured out in the world, and we understand that the message that's poured out in the world is not for Christians. It is not being poured out by Jesus. Hollywood is not being led by Jesus, right? So if we find ourselves in the church aligning with a particular message because it feels nice, it sounds nice, but it is out of alignment with Jesus, then there's something else happening that we really need to check on. That's the whole purpose of these conversations, so we can take a moment to check ourselves. So let's continue and hear what is going on the wrecking trade right here on Flashpoint Media on a Monday, October 2. What is our psychotherapist saying, Sister Elise?
And they're not the expert at healing that wound.
And they didn't cause it.
And they didn't cause
They
it.
didn't cause it.
Why do so many, I'm not going to generalize, but it seems like a lot of women that you hear about with content online.
Yeah.
Why do we see so many women causing frustration in their relationship when they start dating a man based on a wound that someone else did,
Yeah.
not the man in front of them?
Because we've created a generation of narcissistic women. And what's happened is the rise of social media and the rise of online dating and the rise of feminism has taught women that they are not to blame for any poor choices. Every poor choice is glamorized. So if you want to be a sex worker, it's great. If you want to post in bikini pictures online, it's fine. If you want to be with it, every poor choice is glamorized. And every...
Did you get that? She just said that we've created a world of narcissistic women where there's no female accountability. Let's hear that again. Every poor choice is glamorized.
Every poor choice is glamorized.
So whether you want to be 565 pounds, it's okay. Love your curves, girl. If you want to get into sex and sleep with 100 different men, they tell you sex positivity, right? That's the message of the world. So we're not being drawn to a higher place. And I think we just had one of our listeners, viewers, they were enjoying the conversation and saying, it's not about respect for women. And you're right. What I said is respect is for men. Men want respect. Women want something else. Sometimes we get into the idea that women want respect too, but no, let's not get confused. Respect in 2023 for a woman is an ego-driven element. Respect is not her base desire. And so, and let me unpack this for some of our men. So when the woman says to you, she wants you to be more emotional, she's not telling you that she wants you to break down in front of her and cry and tell her that you're scared. No. She wants you to be affectionate. She wants you to share the emotions that make her feel good, make her feel cherished. So let's be clear so that we don't have more men confused trying to break down and cry in front of their females and then wondering why they don't love them anymore. Right? We on the wrecking trade we talk plain. That's what we do here, right? Let's continue. So what we're talking about here is we are telling our young girls that they don't need to maintain sexual purity. They don't need to manage or take care of their bodies. They don't need to respect themselves. They don't even need to respect the men around them, because everything that they do is good and awesome. Did you watch this movie Barbie that came out the other day? Right?
No, I haven't had the privilege of watching Barbie.
One of the most disrespected of the Barbies is the pregnant Barbie, right? All the Barbies were laughing at the pregnant Barbie, right? Because it is telling women that don't let babies get in the way of your education, your Supreme Court aspirations, your getting up, your promotion, all of those things.
We are left with no choice, though. We really have few choices. We have to get out there, or else we don't survive this life.
Why?
Because the men want to stay home.
Says who?
Says a lot of men who just want to kick back, watch TV and play football all day.
So let me see if I understand. Is it that men are saying they want to stay home?
Men have evolved.
Men have, I touched on it a little bit earlier, men have always been problem solvers. A man who wants to have sex or relationships with a woman is going to do whatever he needs to do to gain that access. So if it means he needs to tell lies,
he'll do that.
He'll do that. If it means he needs to...
Isn't that a sad state, though?
It is not so sad when we get to the root of it. Because if I know that people are out there and they're buying pink phones, then it is incumbent on me to offer them pink phones. So if men are doing anything that they can to gain sexual access, who's in control of sex?
The women.
The women.
The gatekeepers.
They're the gatekeepers. So that means the problem is easily resolved.
Yes.
By determining the price. Determining what you want in order to give sexual access. Right? And if you decide that the thing is going to be gold bars, then a man who's the problem solver can only gain access to sex if he presents gold bars. But if women are out there going, well, I can be just like a man too and have one night stands down at the bar, then a man is going to go, well, if that's the price, let's just get some. Yes or no? Feel free to jump on in callers, feel free to jump on in texters, because that's what we're really talking about, is that accountability. So that we stop blaming the other person and start looking at ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So stop blaming men for lying or getting themselves rich so they can have sex, and just determine what sex is valued at.
Okay.
Right? Yes or no?
Yes.
There you go. See, like you're married, you have a husband, you determine that, hey, you're not going to go around there and sleep with a bunch. No, you're going to get married. And so that was your price. And so the man who came to you had to pay that price.
Wait, I don't like using the price and paying idea. It sounds very transactional.
But it is a transaction.
Yes, why we don't really have to let it sound so.
We don't have to let it sound like it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is interesting. Which brings us back to, so you'd prefer to gain a what? A soothing lie than to hear the truth.
No, it's not a soothing lie. It could be referring to a relationship that is one that is a safe place where there's companionship and friendship, and it's not all about transaction.
But who says...
So I giving this to get that.
No. But who says you can't enjoy a transaction? Every time I go down to what's this place, the Commander Bay, and buy some ice cream, I pay them for the ice cream, but I enjoy the ice cream, and they enjoy me buying the ice cream, right? We've just had a wonderful transaction, and we are both the better for the transaction, and none of us are walking away thinking, how dare you pay me for ice cream? No. Right? Right? And that's how relationships work. If we're both understand, we have to both appreciate the fact that we both have gotten into the relationship because we both want to get something from the relationship. The Bible says it was not good for a man to be alone, which means the transaction is add woman, so the man is no longer alone. The man now offers the woman something else in return. Women are generally weaker than men, and so the man offers protection to that woman in return for her companionship.
Okay.
Right? And there's nothing, that's a wonderful transaction.
A wonderful transaction.
And I keep using the word transaction.
To irritate me.
Certainly, that is a great benefit from this transaction. But also, it helps us to appreciate with transaction comes value. And recognizing the transaction means we recognize that we need to value each other. Can you get that, ladies and friends? Valuing each other. Because the slant here is sometimes we're thinking that the woman has value, but seemingly the man has no value in the relationship. That's what we're telling our girls. And like you said, if he make my head hurt me just left him.
Men do that too. I was referring to a relationship period between men and women where men really they opt out of a relationship, and that is how life is nowadays. You change your phone, your smartphone every year. You get a new iPhone. The model get better, and you don't have to be stuck with an Android. You might want to switch to an iPhone. Or that's how life is now.
And I'm hearing you say that, and then I'm being reminded of the statistics that say 80% of marriages are ended by women.
You know, I'm not going to be burying myself. I refuse.
So women may feel that way. You have some text coming. Let's see if we can hear from some of our listeners.
I think we have a burning caller, but I'm not sure if my connection is going to connect. This caller is calling non-stop. I think it perhaps have something very important to say, and it cannot wait. It must be very, 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 very important.
Caller, you're on the air.
Are you hearing us?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yes. You wanted to add something to the conversation, caller. Is this Big Mike? Mikey G?
I was listening to the conversation on the idea of women, the prices that relationship costs.
Yes.
You know, and to see the value that is placed on it, one or the other, the male or female, who is more valuable is always a question in the relationship. I am not hearing you. I am not hearing you.
No, we're listening to you, man. We're hearing you.
We're hearing you.
Okay, I'm hearing you now. And so you asked a question about it. I didn't hear the question if you did ask one.
No, we didn't ask one. So here's the thing. So what we're talking about here is the value of the relationship and how we need to learn to value each other as men, as women in the relationship, because we are both bringing something that the other values, and because of that value, we appreciate each other.
I chalk it up to when I listen to the value story, I chalk it up to the men in the home and the women in the home. So we are looking at the statistics that says the society is run, the homes are now run by more women
60
who are now taking care of the family because the men are opted out of the family and they have disappeared and gone from the home. And so I looked at that statistic and said, well, women are doing a great job, and this is something that is commendable to the women who have been doing such a wonderful job of raising children by themselves because of the society or whatever the statistics says, that men have opted out to not be in the home, and that set of men, well, that has gone. And however,
hang on, Michael. Hang on, caller.
Hang on.
What we're trying to fix up here is when we take these statistics, you have to take them together as a group, and so many times we hear these things. Many times we hear these things and we get stuck at the conversation that says these women are running the household because the men have disappeared. But we don't set them against the backdrop of 80% of marriages are ended by women. We don't account for that. And we don't account for the fact that so many times men are challenged to get access to their children. So it's not just the women are standing over here and they're begging the men to come. And many times these women are holding the children hostage and the men can't even see their children. Right? Because we have designed a world where the relationships, the value of the man in the relationship many times get relegated to just that of the provider, and that's it. He writes a check, and that's all that he's relegated to, right? And we don't see them as parents. We don't see them up as a part of that equation. And so even when we look at the 68% of households are run by women, we don't often account for the fact or the outcomes for these statistics. And the statistics points us consistently to there are better outcomes when two parents are in the household. Two parents are in the household, that's the best outcome, that's the best setup for the child. These children are, by and large, led to greater success, greater outcomes, greater value, right? The number two is actually better outcomes are held by what? Single father-led household. So these households tend to, on 3 points, better outcomes for the child in terms of education, better outcomes for the child in terms of financial stability, and better outcomes for the child in terms of emotional stability. I don't share these things, I don't put these statistics out there to go woman versus man. No, it's recognizing that for some reason a situation has been set up that is negatively impacting our society, negatively impacting our communities, and negatively impacting us as a people. And because of this, if we are eating something, we're consuming something that is giving us negative outcomes, we need to stop, take a moment, look at it, and figure out what we need to fix, what we need to change so that we can have better outcomes. And that's where we are. That's the whole purpose for this show. So it's not necessarily about just celebrating, oh, this is what is going on. Yes, I do have a pet peeve. My pet peeve is what? My pet peeve is many times we talk about my mother who fathered me. Rubbish! You heard it right here on Flashpoint, right here on the Wrecking Trade with Robert Biggs. A mother cannot father a child. A mother, just like a father cannot mother a child, a mother cannot father a child. And with that, let's hear a little bit more from our psychotherapist in the room so we can unpack a little bit more of what is happening between men and women in these relationships.
If you want to be a sex worker, it's great. If you want to post in bikini pictures online, it's fine. If you want to be in with it, every poor choice is glamorized and every internal reflection is seen as gaslighting yourself. So they've even got terms for internal reflection to prevent it happening. And so what will happen is they are trained to not reflect on themselves because we've been told we've been oppressed for so many years. Now it's time to make sure we project. And so we don't take any accountability. And as a result, when we get into relationships, if we don't feel completely soothed all the time, he must be a narcissist. He must be a manipulator. He must be gaslighting. He, rather than I. And unfortunately, we've got an online market that caters to that wounded woman, that caters to that entitled woman, and caters to that narcissistic woman. And it's so wild to me that so many women talk about narcissism, but the society today is just catering to narcissistic women. If I post a picture online, a bikini picture online, there's nothing my husband can do that could compete with that level of accolade. Impossible.
The compliments, the attention, the messaging, the you're so sexy and beautiful, and all these different things from thousands or potentially millions of men
around the world
who have money and all these things.
Yeah, and there's nothing he can do. He can't post online and get the same reaction. And more so, he can't give me the same level of validation. So what's happened is we've created a setup in society that means men have to compete with a level of validation they can't compete with.
Elise, that's an interesting. What do you think about that? Men are competing in a game that they can't win. The amount of validation that a woman gets from the online experience is just incomparable to what that husband is able to give. Give thought to.
No, I you know.
You don't agree?
No, when your husband, there's no competition with someone who is there versus likes on Facebook or likes on any social platform. There's no comparison.
That's supposed to be what happens. There should be no comparison. This is the person you've chosen to spend your life with. But then why do we find so many women in committed relationships still posting bikini pictures online? Or, let's take it to recent history.
Suppose she was getting enough attention at home. Why don't you think that there is perhaps that void that she's trying to now get attention?
Which is what we just said, right? What if there is... I cannot deliver to you the amount of attention that the world is giving you.
No, but you don't need that volume of attention, but enough so that you don't feel compelled to go on the social platform.
So you're sure that's enough? So you're saying then...
If you're getting enough attention, you don't even have time for that.
Okay, so what you're saying then is if the man is giving you enough attention at home, then you don't need to go on social media.
No.
Well, let me say it a different way. You're saying if the man would give you attention, then you wouldn't need to go out on social media.
And let it be known, it goes both ways.
Yes, because that's what I'm going to say.
Attention goes both ways.
So let's explore then. You're saying the man is not giving you enough attention, so you're getting that validation outside of the street. Then shouldn't the same, I guess, approval be given to men who go out and have sex on the street? They're not getting enough sex at home? Is that what we're saying? Because if she's going out...
No, that's a different... No.
Why is it different?
No.
Why is it different?
What comparisons?
Why is it different?
Robert, I don't know about that comparison at all. That's different.
Because here's the thing. If women get off then on validation, if women's cups are filled through validation, and you and my friend there in all caps said that what the men want for their validation is sex. Then if why are we creating relationships?
The appetite of the man is just like that. It's just like that. They genetically they feel compelled to go and look outside, even if there's no need.
And so
that's the genetic makeup of a man.
Oh, so you're saying men should learn how to control themselves so they wouldn't need to go outside.
Oh yes.
So would women need to learn how to control themselves so they wouldn't need to go on social media for the validation then?
What percentage of women are going on social media for validation? I don't understand.
We just can't get a point on this one. We can't get a point, right? But that's why I appreciate that this is a woman here, a psychotherapist, that is able to share these things that is happening to us, so she is able to see the female perspective, look at it clearly, and be able to unpack that for us tonight. So let's continue.
And if they go online, if they join Tinder, that night they can have so many more options than a man can, because we've got filters and we've got all of these. Again, I really am privy to this myself. I'm a filter queen. So, but the things I can do to manipulate male validation,
to get more attention from men,
just soothe myself and to remind myself I'm above this, I don't need him, I can replace him, is something men actually can't do. So they have to rely on pornography for that. They replace us with pornography and we replace them with likes and comments on social media.
Wow. How did this happen? Like, why do you think, is this a values thing, a lack of values thing? Is this okay, if I feel wounded or I feel some type of trauma, I need an emotional release, and so this makes me feel good, and then it's just a slippery slope into more and more? How does this start, and when does it end?
I think it comes from the fact that we've created a culture that whenever there's a problem, there's a temporary solution that doesn't get rid of the root.
We got a message in, someone's able to recognize it. The question,
I shouldn't have shown you my message. That's not
why are women on social media? For validation. Because the question might be asked, why are men on pornography? For sexual gratification. So the currency is equivalent. Women don't watch porn. right? So they don't need that release. They're not looking for. They're looking for the validation. So they're overwhelmingly on social media, on Instagram, on OnlyFans, and all these things, posting naked pictures so they can get the validation. Men don't need to post naked pictures. We have our producer wants to add a thought.
And it's so confusing because if you ask them for a nude picture, with, in a panty or bra, they'll say no, but on the beach, giving it for free.
And again, because here's the thing: if she wanted that validation, just like you said, she could send that nude picture, that naked picture, to her husband that she's saying she's not getting it from. She's not getting the validation from. Why is she sharing it with the world and all these random other dudes laying inside their bedrooms, inside darkness, that is now able to pop likes, right? Because if you're not getting the validation from X source, then you should go to X source. Because I'm thinking that's what you're saying, especially for men. Men, don't cheat. You want sex, go to your partner. Women, you want validation, go to your partner.
And do what? Scream?
You're right? You're saying men have to go to the woman and scream, please. Oh, that's what you're saying, right? That's what you're saying, right?
I'm saying.
Let's continue as our psychotherapist shares with us what's going on in the world.
So what I mean by that is if there's a problem with intimacy for men and they're not getting women, there's pornography. If there's a problem of low self-esteem in women because they don't have meaning and purpose, they can post a few pictures online. We've created a way of solving problems that doesn't get rid of the root. So we're always seeking highs, and the problem with highs is they come with lows. So you end up having more problems, more low self-esteem, and then seeking bigger highs to get that kind of back to neutral state. So I think the problem comes with problems being solved by seeking highs and a real focus on kind of values that are very empty materialistic values. So you are a beautiful, high-value woman if you're really, really beautiful, and you're a high-value man now if you are really, really rich. But there's nothing to do with connection and intimacy that now gives us status. And I think that's come from social media mainly.
Where does this lead over the next 3 to 5 years with this narcissistic, society, I guess, that's been built in this way? What happens for people in relationships? Are people able to find intimacy and connection and stay committed and be actually happy in a healthy relationship, or is it only going to get worse?
And that's an important question for us to ponder, because that's where we find the solution. Are we able to get past this situation and get back to some kind of equilibrium, get back to some kind of place where we can find each other again? What needs to happen? Do we need to blow up social media and just not have it anymore? Are we somehow drawn to this because it is now easier to go down to the supermarket and pick up a chicken as opposed to go hunting? It is now easier to jump on pornography than to actually build up yourself, go to the gym, work on yourself, work on your lyrics, we used to call it back in the day, work on your game so that you can actually attract a woman, for you to actually engage in relationship building with a man, as opposed to just posting social media and getting on those random validation on the street. How do we get back to the place where we can be in meaningful long-term relationships with each other, where we can foster and grow positive families, strong children, so that we can navigate away from this chaos that we're in? Do you think we can do it, Ellie?
Together we can, and that's what the wrecking trade is doing right now. It kind of forces you to think of these issues, and the question that was posed just now: what is going to happen 3 to 5 years from now? We think about the generations to come. We think about our children. And you want to make it a better place.
Yes.
And not just go down this hill of total decline and demise and negativity. How do we fix it? How can we solve it?
All right, so let's hear what our resident psychotherapist is saying.
It leads to intense and pervasive loneliness, unfortunately.
Really?
And it probably will only get worse. Unfortunately, until we wake up to the impact of technology, both on men and women, it's going to lead to a complete identity crisis, external kind of extrinsic values that don't benefit anybody, which then manifests in depression and loneliness, self-inflicted depression and loneliness. Yeah, when I say depression and loneliness, it's not like I have a disease or anything. It's self-inflicted through poor choices. So unfortunately, it's going.
So here it is. Nothing will stop us from the experience that we have but ourselves. Self-inflicted loneliness, self-inflicted distractions, all of this is self-inflicted because the phone in our hands, we're the ones putting it there. The social media accounts, we're the ones creating them. The things that are getting in the way of us being able to see each other, we're the ones putting them in, right? We're the ones who are creating and consuming the things that is negatively affecting us. Men, pornography is hurting you, right? We may rationalize and say, well, she's not giving me any, or she's not whatnot. What we're saying here is, by consuming that, you're lowering your tolerance for hard work. Just like we're saying, if you get stuck on ordering Let's Eat, wonderful company, they can do what they need to do, because sometimes you're in a pinch and you're in the studio and you need to order, right? But if you get caught up with the idea of all you do is order delivery, then you never get in the kitchen and learn to enjoy the experience of cooking, of creating a meal. If all you're looking for is that quick validation in relationships of just hot likes, then you shy away from the lows and the headaches that come with building a relationship. Just like if you never want to feel any of the pain in your muscles, you're never going to have any muscles. If there's no pain, then there's absolutely no gain. We can never experience growth in our comfort zones.
If I may add to this.
Come on in.
Well, I love this discourse, Elaram. It's wonderful.
I don't think can they see you?
Yeah, they're seeing me. We were discussing the other day that the porn industry is highly supported by men, and just hearing this discussion, I wonder if on the premise where more women leave relationships as opposed to men.
Yes,
I'm wondering if more men were getting more respect if the porn industry would be highly supported by men.
And that's a powerful question. Sister Elise, what do you think about that question? That's a powerful question, because because I heard you give a parallel earlier. If the women were getting the validation in the relationship, then they wouldn't need any social media. So if the men were getting the sex, the respect, the access.
Yes, just clarify that you guys don't need sex. All you need is respect. So if you're getting the respect, you don't need porn.
Let's be clear. Because we can't say you want H2O but you don't want water, right? Because part of, as I said earlier, part of the respect, because men have learned what women want and how women express themselves.
They have?
Yes. Women don't sleep with men they don't respect. Yes or no?
I would hope so.
So if women don't sleep with men they don't respect, then that means if she's sleeping with you, she respects you. And if she's not, there's a high chance that she doesn't respect you. So that means sex is one of the things that is the indicator to the man that she respects him.
Okay. Get you.
Right? And so if that respect and all that comes with it was evident in the relationship, I imagine the porn industry would die a natural death. Just like like you said earlier, maybe Instagram would die a natural death if the women were feeling that validation.
Yeah.
Right?
Wouldn't need to go Instagramming and Facebooking and all the other. Yeah.
But here's the thing. What is happening in the world where we're getting a bigger fix from the social media? So the porn, because the man doesn't have to put up with her nagging, he doesn't have to do all of these things, he can just jump on his computer, no arguments, and get there. It becomes easier. And same way, the woman doesn't have to do all these other things, she can just get the validation easier. We are creating the world where things are so easy, so microwaved, that we're only looking for the highs, which causes us to continuously have the lows. Because your Instagram can't hug you at nights. Your Instagram can't protect you.
We're getting there though.
Which means you've identified the problem.
There you go. So it looks like you're pressing the gas, Sister Elise. You're pressing the gas down the road, heading to the world, as she just said. And I mean, it's a sad take on the state of affairs, but it's a necessary take because we can only navigate away from it if we recognize it. If we don't open our eyes to it, we're just continuing to roll on down this road where we keep having the battle of the sexes. We're against each other, and all of us continue to be dissatisfied. But even worse, because we're grown people, we've made mistakes, we've done things. This is where we are. We made bad choices. But the children, Sister Elise,
Yeah.
they didn't ask for this. You grown man, you grown woman, you decided to get together and make a relationship and call a baby into the world. Now they are working through, suffering through, experiencing the negative effects of your poor choices.
Yeah.
And if we continue to make these poor choices and continue to invite children into these situations, then we continue to repeat the cycle, because hurt people, and then hurt people continue to hurt people because they're going to grow up broken, traumatized, and hurt, not knowing how to connect and looking for easy ways out, and they're going to continue the cycle.
Indeed.
And that's where we are on the wrecking trade. I mean, it's a conversation that needs to be had. It's a conversation that must be had. It's a conversation that we will continue to have right here every Monday night at 8 o'clock to 9:30. We'll talk about these things because we don't just have uncomfortable conversations because they give us clicks. We have them because we need to have them. What are your final thoughts, Sister Elise?
Wow, we have embarked on a tremendous journey that can only allow us to reap positive results. Once we open the door to communication, then we are solving a lot of profound issues, and we are starting it right here at Flashpoint. I want to say thank you, Robert. Thank you for just bringing it. You know, we need to talk and have open discussion, and I truly enjoyed the program this evening. I hope you would have learned a few things from me as well.
Absolutely. I see that they're great challenges and we can work through them, and so we continue to work through them and we continue to have the conversation. And you know, let me just say, I appreciate you. Let me start off with Mikey. Big Mike, he had a vision for Flashpoint Media. He had a vision to take it to the world. You used to see him back in the day, you know, walking around, running around, and he'd put on his computer, connect to, and here we are in this wonderful Flashpoint studio that was born out of his imagination from one computer sitting in a bedroom way back when. And here you are, Sister Elise, here operating with us, running the studio with us. Thank you for helping us to get set up. We have Pastor Marquino, who's in the studio with us. I mean, he couldn't contain himself. He had to jump into the conversation, and that's what we want. We're inviting everyone to come be a part of the conversation, because once we're all in the conversation, then we can all grow. And as we grow, we can touch those outside, because there's some people who are not hearing the conversation tonight. So I'm hoping, I'm praying that when you leave here, you share the message with someone out there. This has been the Wrecking Trade right here on Flashpoint Radio. Amen? Come on in.
You're broken down and tired of living life.
you.